back to Just Another Football Podcast. Back again. The season is over. The table's locked in. And we are going to revisit our predictions that we made at the start of the season. We've got a full house tonight. Me, Fergal, George and Ali. How are you doing, boys?
My season isn't over.
Your season isn't over, I suppose. Yeah, you can console yourself with a Champions League final. And how will you
Well,
go after the heartbreak of not winning the league? At least you got a Champions League final to fall back on. It's hard for some, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, you know. We were challenging for all those titles, and I'm just like so nervous all the time because every game is just really important. You know,
you played every fixture this season.
Every fixture. No, look, I knew the manner in which City won the title ultimately was annoying, but I was prepared. And I'm prepared for Real Madrid to win the Champions League. But I've been prepared for this possibility for months. Yeah. So, yeah, still very nervous, though. Like, really nervous, not gonna lie.
Just to sort of quickly recap the final day and kind of what went on, there was a lot of drama, both at the top and bottom of the table. I think for me, the most shocking part of it all was the team with the least drama, you know, with something riding on their game, was bloody Spurs. They made simple work of it. It was the most un-Spurs thing I've ever seen. Just a routine win on the last day.
Yeah.
It was the most Norwich thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It says more about Norwich than Spurs.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I'll tell you right now, I do not want Norwich to go up next season. I don't want to see them in the Premier League for the next 5 years at minimum.
I only want to see them if they spend a load of money to the point of bankruptcy. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, none of this self-sustaining.
No, none of this really sustainable, sensible.
Running a business properly. Not interested. They, God, I mean, I watched the highlights of the game, obviously, when I got back on Sunday. And, I mean, it's just hilarious. That was the team we were relying on to get us a win. Yeah, we had no chance. Fucking hell. They are awful. Just quickly, Ali, on the final day, it was a weird one for Liverpool because they never went top at any point. Like, there were moments where City obviously weren't winning, they were losing, but Liverpool never got in front at that point. So, you know, did it feel like you'd lost it, or because for me, because I saw people going on Twitter, sort of Liverpool fans saying that they were more disappointed this time than in 2018-19, whereas in that season you got in front and then Man City chased you down and obviously ended up winning it. How do the emotions of it sort of compare? Because you were well out of it, at Christmas time and in January, and then you've kind of clawed your way back in and ultimately fallen just short.
It obviously isn't as disappointing as 18-19.
That's what I thought.
People
were saying the opposite.
Yeah, to get 97 points and not win is historically unlucky. We did get 92. That's not.
Yeah, which is still good.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen much, does it?
No.
And just to give like a context of my day on Sunday, because it was pretty weird as well. I was in a graduation ceremony for my twin brother, Kareem. Shout out. He graduated graduate school. But the ceremony was during the games, and I couldn't watch. And I was just sitting there like I'm like refreshing FootMob. Like the connection is horrible. I'm getting updates late. It's a really nervous time, especially when Aston Villa went 2-0 up and we were losing or drawing. We were drawing, weren't we?
Yeah. 1-0.
But I was relieved when City took the lead because it would have been so incredibly annoying if we'd drawn and Villa drew or won. Because,
I see what you mean.
Like,
you'd rather they win it.
I'd rather we just both win.
Yeah.
Everyone does their job rather than we both bottled it. Like, no.
I do wonder if Liverpool had have taken the lead and gone ahead at one point. I do wonder if that would have affected Man City's comeback at all. If like that news had got to the players that Liverpool are coasting it and you're 2-0 down or something like that. I do wonder if that would have had an effect, but probably not. Because they were pretty ruthless.
Yeah,
just went and done it. Like the Gundogan, like it's meant like they're just happy to let him go, and yet he's the last he's really come into his own the last couple of seasons. Really, just crucial player popping up, in some big wins and big goals for them, and Sterling as well. And then, yeah, it was just funny how it played out. Like it was almost an absolute disaster. Pep Guardiola looked a mess in the sideline. It looked like it was actually it was just substitutes that stepped up. Obviously, had to pick them, but he was not coping very well at all.
It's frustrating because City. I mean, no one really likes to see City win. At the same time, obviously, rivalries mean that no one wanted Liverpool to win. But
I was delighted.
They've had so many iconic Premier League moments now. Like that comeback is. I think if it was any other team, this comeback would have been lauded as true.
If it was Liverpool,
genuine. If it was Liverpool,
If it was Liverpool, it would have been historic.
It would have been. It would genuinely would have been equated to Istanbul. Like the significance of a comeback, 2-0 down. It's just. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
I was delighted to see them to stop the quadruple. I was like,
I don't blame
so
you.
anxious.
Yeah.
Watching the game, I had You said you were relieved, Ali. I was genuinely relief at when they took the lead. I was like, thank fuck for that. It was
No, I got annoyed again when Salah scored. It's like now you take the lead, like.
Yeah, it's typical.
It was great when Salah thought he'd won.
Yeah.
That goal.
I didn't know. Have you seen the clip?
The Matip clip,
Yeah.
Yeah, Matip asked the crowd. I think that's a good thing, actually. That Matip kind of.
Well, the thing is, like, you'd think the players have some idea because the news travels so quickly. Like within, I can sort of speak personally with this. Like, you know what's happening. I mean, with the Everton fans, for example, they started going absolutely mental about 2 minutes into the game. So I guessed either Wolves had scored or Man City had scored. As it turned out, Wolves had scored. And then in about the 80-odd minute, we just scored, gone 5-1 up. And then they were throwing flares onto the pitch and going absolutely mental. I was like, well, I guess Man City have made it 3-2 then, which they had. I mean, it's just crazy how quickly the news seems to travel.
Someone was asking for the Liverpool
if
score.
Salah had scored.
Salah scored.
Salah had scored. Yeah, I did see that, the greedy bastard.
Elite mental.
No,
Elite.
Well, what's he won?
We won 2 cups. The Golden Boot. Although I do have something to say about the Golden Boot, but we can get to that later.
Yeah. What was I going to add? I've lost my train of thought there, to be fair. Talking about Son, it's got my head in a spin. Yeah, I mean, Liverpool they were never in front, as I said, so it's difficult to feel like you lost it. And I do understand your point about you'd rather they go in front and just take it from you than they bottle it and you bottle it as well. That is definitely harder to take.
Yeah.
But I also understand the point. Like with Man City, like if it was any other club, it would be remembered so much more than it will be. But like
Absolutely.
That's just what they have to deal with. Like their success is entirely artificial, and so. I
feel like the Aguero moment though, I do have very fond memories, and I do remember liking that team a lot. There's a lot of likable characters in that team, which now because they've just been so dominant for so long. But at the same time, I actually like. If Liverpool went on for the quadruple, I would have wanted Liverpool to win the Premier League because I'm sort of sick of this now. But the fact
4 and 5
quadruple.
Well, the thing with Man City is, like George said, like it. You want them to win it so your rivals don't win it, but then it's like them winning it is kind of, to me, as interesting as like waking up in the morning and having breakfast. Like it means absolutely nothing to me. I honestly, like, it's water off a duck's back. Like there's nothing like interesting or iconic about Man City winning anything ever.
I really feel. I almost feel for Man City fans in that sense. Genuine, true Man City fans that were City fans.
Who?
City fans, diehard City fans, and really, they might be loving it. I can't imagine they are. I can't imagine someone.
I don't think they mind, mate.
Who truly loves City goes. You can see the craving for a little bit of attention, and they're not going to get it. No one cares. No one. Genuinely, I'm really sorry. Like, I know it sounds patronising, but
it's true, isn't it?
I disagree, to be honest.
But hold on, Andy, hold on. Like, there's no more compelling a case you can make than Man United fans were genuinely delighted that they won the league.
Yeah.
That's their city rivals that you're talking about. They were ecstatic that they won the league because you didn't. Because you're an actual rival to them. Whereas Man City, it's kind of like they're not. No one considers them a rival. They don't have any history. I just don't know how you can make an argument for people actually giving a shit about what they do. Like, no one wants them doing the Champions League because that's quite funny.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about ethics. I'm talking about the fact that because they don't have that history and you know, the tradition that all the other clubs do. No one really cares when they win it. As
I think the color as well is just like so like neutral. It's like baby blue and like it's just like so
uncontroversial. It's
it's just like
it's like I do know what you mean. Ali, go on, make your case against then.
One more thing. Everything's washed, isn't it? Sports washed.
Blue washed, everything.
Blue washed.
Yeah.
What's blue washing?
The argument for the defense. I never thought I'd hear you defending Man City, to be fair. But...
No, not defending Man City. Just the fact that they. I don't know if I understood it wrong, but George, you were saying you can't imagine a Man City fan being genuinely delighted that they won the league.
No, true, like die hard, like it. Being a fan since.
I think
the
you
60s,
would be happy. I know the point you're getting at. That like. You're there trying to lord it over everyone else, and everyone else is there going,
doesn't matter.
Whatever.
I'll tell you what. I will say this. When I was younger, watching Egyptian soccer, and I was a fan of Al Ahly, who won the league every single year.
Yeah.
And, like, not even 4 and 5 or whatever. They would win it 10 years in a row, genuinely.
Right.
But... And every single time it would be a big thing, and people would like go out on the streets and celebrate. It's like that every year. We'd win the African Champions League 3 times in a row or whatever, and it would be the same kind of celebration every time. Yeah. I think like genuine diehard fans of their teams would be absolutely delighted every time by their team's success. And that's from experience as a spoiled Al Ahly fan.
I don't think that's true, because for as much as if you won something 100 years in a row.
If it gets 100 years in a row, it's it becomes.
Let's take it to the extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Take it to the extremes, because the extremes always prove somewhat of a point. Mm-hmm. If you won something 100 times in a row, that is not significant. That's not. It's routine. It's not interesting, and therefore it's not something to be celebrated. If you won something once in your club's history, I know that it's almost counterproductive to win loads and loads of titles. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it becomes less and less special.
I think it depends 100%. How. I think it depends how, though. Like, what I would say to counter that, it's like, if you look at the Premier League, I know Man City have won 4 of the last 5, but like a couple of them have been competitive. They've gone to the last day against a very good opposition chasing them down. It's not like the Bundesliga, where Bayern have won it 10 years in a row and only once has it been by less than 10 points. Like, I do think there is a degree to which how you win it matters. I do understand what you're saying. Like, if you just win over and over and over again, winning becomes devalued.
The fact they came from 2-0 down, like, you saw the pitch invasion, it did really matter to them.
Yeah.
And then you can also see it with Everton staying up the previous week, that, like, because they had a comeback as well, like, it made them, that was mental. What happened at Everton.
Yeah, like, pitch evasion after a goal.
People didn't know what to do with themselves. Some ended up assaulting people. But they didn't know what to do themselves that much. Frank Lampard was just like running around like a headless chicken after the game, hugging any person he came near. And I think that was all down to like the actual how the match went. It wasn't, if they had coasted through 2-0 up and had stayed like that and nobody really got a chance, I think it's fine. I think it changes how you feel about the getting over the line. I think with Man City, it was exactly the same. I think if you're in that stadium, I think it was really, really special. But I think it really does matter. I get your point, George, but the point is they're not at 100 wins yet of the Premier League title. It's 10 years on from.
What is it, like 5 of the last 10? Is it?
They've had 4 and 5.
I know they had 4 in 5, but if we're talking about like the last decade or whatever, I suppose it's since Guardiola's come in, it's what, 4 of 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
I do agree with George. When it comes to individual wins, winning individual games becomes an expectation, and when you win a game, you're not delighted; you're just relieved. That dilutes things a bit. But
that's always going to be the case for big clubs, though.
Exactly.
Like, whether you're winning or not, you expect to win like probably 90% of the games minimum. I mean, Liverpool and City expect to win every week, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And they kind of need to be in the title race. Those are the levels you're talking about. I want to move on to my own personal disappointment.
Hey.
Wasn't on last week. And I'm probably still not quite in a position where I'm able to compartmentalize the entire season and kind of be rational about it. I think it still is a bit. The disappointment is still there. No, I suppose you don't, but I'm going to give you it to a degree. I think what's annoyed me more than anything is kind of the analysis of us bottling it. Because I basically think that we're just not good enough. I think there's a difference, basically. Like, I think that people prefer to make stuff about intangibles like bottle and mentality and stuff like that. Whereas when I look at it personally, and people will say, yeah, you had a 4-point lead with 3 games left. Like, that's fine. That's fine if you want to judge it kind of on a result-based, an outcome-based, in an outcome-based manner. Like, that's fine. But the way I would look at it is, if you look at the lineups we fielded for the last 10 games, you can't honestly tell me that team and the players that were out there are a top 4 team. They're not. It was a classic case of getting, and I'm not like absolving anyone here. I'm not absolving Arteta or the board or the transfer team for not getting players in and leaving us with what we had. Like, I'm not making excuses in that sense. But those are the facts. That's what we were playing every week. And I'm not surprised we lost 5 of the last 10 because that isn't a good team. That isn't a team that's going to get 4th. It's going to be inconsistent. It's going to drop points. And I just prefer to look at it as a qualitative issue than a mentality issue. Like, when I look at us this season, I don't think our problem's been mentality. I think our problem's been quality. We don't score enough goals. I think that's pretty clear. We haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 10 games when we've lost a couple of defenders. I think we just weren't good enough. And when I look at Spurs, and I don't think there's a great deal of, qualitative difference between the two teams, but Spurs have 2 of the top 4 goal scorers in the league. I mean, that helps when you're going for top 4 and you have match winners in your lineup. It sometimes is enough. And then let's face it, and I don't like the guy, but Conte is a manager that is in his prime years as a manager, right? He's been there, he's experienced, and he knows what's required to get over the line. And when I look at our squad, I don't think there is that quality, and I don't think there's that know-how. So that's the only thing that's frustrated me. But like, in terms of my own personal disappointment, I'm very disappointed with it because I feel like with 3 games left, we should have got it done, and I'm disappointed that we didn't. And when I look back at it, maybe we were a bit naive, but naive tactically more than anything. I think going to Spurs and trying to press them high up the pitch and try and win the game there rather than making it cagey, making it difficult for them, make them play a game that they don't want to play. I think we'd have been better off doing that. And it's a disappointing season. The only thing I would say, and what slightly has annoyed me as well, is when people have gone on about the whole 1 game a week thing for us. Fucking Spurs have had that since December. They bombed themselves out of the bloody Conference League. So it's not like we haven't had an advantage in that sense. We had that advantage over Man United, but I think we'd have finished above them anyway. They were so terrible. So it is annoying and it hurts. It hurts to lose it to Spurs, I think, is the thing. It's a kick in the teeth. Yeah. It's a 6th season in a row they've finished above us. And as I said, I don't think there's a great deal between the two teams, but they just have slightly more. They have more of a cutting edge. They've got more match winners, and I think in the last 10 games, they had more than us. If I'm being honest, I think the only surprising thing for me was when we lost those 3 games in a row to Palace, Brighton, and Southampton. I thought we were done then, and then we kind of had a mini revival and beat Chelsea and beat Man United and beat West Ham. And maybe that's the surprising thing for me is we actually kind of got back into it, and then it was a false dawn, and ultimately we've fallen short. But I think we're the fifth best team. I think that's kind of just where we are at the moment. I suppose is kind of the long way of saying it. Like, I'm not. It's not like we should have finished fourth. We've not done a Man United and brought in Varane and Ronaldo and Sancho and bombed the season. I think we've just seen that we're not quite there yet. And I'm not saying that we will be next season. I'm not saying it's going to get easier because we're going to have to juggle European football. The squad is thin, and we're going to have more games. So I'm not saying it's like linear progression. I think that it would have been good this season to finish fourth and kind of just, jump a few steps. But I'm not surprised that we didn't.
It's funny because you've actually reframed my mind and actually convinced me quite a lot that it wasn't a bottle job.
I couldn't agree less.
Because the reason why I would sort of add to sort of Harry's point, and he's already articulated this, but I'll sort of rephrase it and rehash it, is
Thanks,
that with expectation. I mean, obviously, that's why City need to win every single game. Arsenal weren't expected to get top 4 at the start of the season, but because it's almost relative, isn't it? It shifts throughout the season because of where you are. When in reality, the situation at the start of the season will never be the same at the end of the season, and therefore, this I suppose revision of Arsenal's expectations from the start of the season to the last, let's say 5-6 games. It must be difficult for Arsenal fans because yes, it's difficult to lose out to a Spurs side that arguably you probably should be competing with and finishing.
I think we are. I think we just
and you have been competing with. That's the other thing. Having said that, I think the true team that bottled it is Man United, and it will get glossed over because of how poorly they did.
Well, they were just well out of it, weren't they?
Well, that's it. The expectations changed for them because of how shit they were. So I suppose with great expectations, there's almost this tragedy in it where you've got to live up to it, and if you don't, you can sort of write it off. But
if we'd finished fourth with fifth with, I don't know, like 62 points and just never been in it, people wouldn't talk about it nearly as much.
No, not at all.
But
of course they wouldn't, Harry.
The fact is, but hold on, which is what I'm going to say, is we put ourselves 4 points in front with 3 games left. And that's what people will come back to and ultimately mention is we were there and it was in our hands to do it and we didn't.
Exactly.
I'm not surprised that we didn't.
That is a bottle. I've been biting my tongue here.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a bottle. And it doesn't. There's a lot of things you were saying there, Harry, and they're not mutually exclusive. I still think it's a very good season for Arsenal.
I don't. I never said it was a very good season. I never even said that.
You said it's a good season. You said it was good.
I didn't.
Oh, you said it was good.
I have the recording. I'll listen back to it. I'm the editor here.
No, I didn't say it was a good season.
I think it's a good season for you on the whole. I also think you bottled it. I think the two aren't mutually exclusive. It could have been a very good season, but you did bottle it. And that's because all you had to do was beat Newcastle. And that Newcastle performance felt like a bottle. It just felt like
It was qualitatively awful. We couldn't string 2 passes together.
Yeah.
I prefer to judge what I'm watching rather than intangibles like bottle. How do you measure bottle?
You measure bottle by by looking at the outcome, looking at the.
You've not bottled it. Is that what you're saying?
If you win against Newcastle, you would have preserved your 4th place, right?
But the point is,
the performance was so pathetic and dropped off.
Yes, it was awful. But it was awful, like qualitatively. We played badly. That's just the fact that the team isn't very good. Like we're missing players.
But hold on.
It's too early.
They've been doing I get it. They're on the decline. But they're better. They're a better team than what they've done against Newcastle.
Yes, but
I agree with that. I agree with that. They are better than that.
The fact that they underperformed on the day is a bottle.
It's somewhat.
Xhaka's words describe the bottle after the game. The fact that people did not step up, and it's acceptable because they are a young squad. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't lord it over Arsenal fans going.
But I don't care if you do. It doesn't particularly bother me.
But it's you need to hold the L in this. You've been giving it out to Spurs for years. You have to hold the L
No,
in this
We've
one.
been finishing
Well,
below them for 5 years, mate.
But go. Don't tell me you've never called Spurs bottle jobs.
Yeah, because they don't win trophies, but that's different.
Yeah, but this is. I mean,
That's
this is
different.
Wenger's trophy, 4th, and you've bottled
Wenger's not here anymore. Wenger's gone.
If you can't, like, the fact that you crumbled against Newcastle, and then on the last day of the season,
Yes,
go and
because we
pump
had
Everton
3.
5-1.
Look, this is going to sound like excuses, but the reason we crumbled, the reason we were so terrible, is we had 3 injured defenders playing, and we had Mohamed El Neni in midfield. That is not a good team. That's not a good 11 out there, right?
On top of that,
It's not what
Harry,
you-
on top of that, I mean, if we go, it's too early to shift to this, but if we go to our predictions at the start of the season, Harry 6th, George 6th, Ali 10th for Arsenal.
Yeah,
Virgil
that's a joke.
Doesn't matter.
No, but
It doesn't
it does
matter.
matter. Right,
No.
okay, so
It doesn't
Okay,
matter because
did-
when
did
because
Villarreal-
you-
did Villarreal-
if you
did
if you
Villarreal
asked
fall
me
in
if
the
you told
Champions
me at
League?
the start of the
It's
season
the same
if
thing.
you told me at the start of the season Arsenal can qualify for Europe with a win against Newcastle and a win against Everton, all of us will go yes.
No,
Don't give me
because,
this. Don't give me this.
it's about the whole season. That's
It's not about the whole season.
That's
It's
No, it
taking
is.
a
Of
micro
course it
game.
is.
When it comes
Of
to
course it
bottling it, it becomes is all the eggs in your basket? Have you
But
got a lot of things going for you? Is it in your hands? And can you grasp it or not? Can you have the clutch moments to go and grab it? Arsenal were in that position. Had a chance.
No.
They should have beat Newcastle. They stuffed Everton.
I
The
No,
pressure
no
was
one
on.
has.
I
a
completely
divine
agree with
right.
everything Fergal's saying.
No one had. No, that's bollocks though. That's utter bollocks. No one has a divine right to divine right to win every game. Newcastle have been one of the best teams in 2022. It's not an easy game, right?
It's not,
Spurs
but
had
it's still a
Burnley
bottle.
and scraped over the line with a penalty.
Bad. If he's had a drawn it, I would be like, I can
Virgil,
accept
Yes,
that.
the performance was bad. We played badly. Like,
Yeah,
the team
well,
isn't
that's
good at
exactly
the
why.
moment.
Yeah,
So
we're
you-
going to go round and
It's
round.
It's a
Sorry,
bottle
sorry.
Yeah.
though. It's because the team
Not-
isn't good at the
not
moment.
bottle. Yeah, it's not bottle. And with that theory, Arsenal would have won every single game below 5th. If you're taking
Yeah,
it so
you beat
so
every
Arsenal,
team that you should
you beat
beat on
every team that
paper.
you should beat. That's not reality. That's just not what's gonna.
Listen,
And on top
that's
of
the
that,
expectations, though.
no, it's
to
not.
beat every
No,
team
it's not,
worse
but
than
you
you.
can't be that
But
consistent.
that doesn't happen though, does it? That doesn't
I-
happen.
It doesn't happen. But
I disagree with
if
that,
you
Fergal.
if you underperform,
No, but Ali, that's the
bottle.
theory. That is
Fergal,
the theory.
you're
No,
essentially saying-
the expectation is go and perform against Newcastle. Don't play like that and lose in that way, and
but
therefore
Ali,
lose
that's
top
the
four
thing.
as a
The
direct
words
result of this
Xhaka says after the
performance.
game points to a mentality, and that's someone in the dressing room.
No.
As one of the leaders, he's pointing to a lack of people showing up, a lack of mentality. Like he
But my
didn't say
point
the word
is, right,
bottle,
now hold on
but he
though,
said
but-
every other
No.
synonym for it.
You're making it about one game though. Whereas what I'm saying to you is
Because
over
it was
30
about one game. It
No,
came
it
down
wasn't.
to one.
It
became down
wasn't
to
because
2
what if
games.
we'd already qualified for the Champions League by that point? What I'm saying to you is, it's 38 games in a season, and across 38 games, we weren't good enough. We didn't get enough points
Yeah.
to finish 4th. That's what I'm saying. Is that you can boil it down to not beating Newcastle, and okay, if you want, I'll even admit on that night we might have bottled it. But my point is, if you assess the season as a whole, we weren't good enough. Our strikers combined for fucking 14 goals in the season. That's less than Son scored after Christmas. You know, it's a qualitative issue. It's not a mentality issue. We have the most one-goal wins of any team this season. So that suggests there is fighting spirit in the team. They know how to dig results out. What I'm saying to you is we weren't good enough. We didn't have enough match winners, and when it came down to the last 10 games, we didn't have enough quality to, win by fine margins. And that's what I would prefer the analysis to be. If people want to say that we bottled it, like, that's fine. But I've watched it every week, and I'm pretty sure I know what I'm seeing, And it's
For me, when it comes to bottle jobs, it comes down to 1 or 2 games. It's you can't bottle a.
as much as I like to joke about
You can't
it, though.
bottle a whole season. It comes down to like a run of small games.
Correct.
Like it's more about being clutch. It's that the clutch and bottle job.
Did you think Spurs
are
were
like the
clutch?
two opposite? Do I think? Yeah.
They beat Burnley 1-0 with a dodgy penalty. Like, is that what we're boiling? No, it's not clutch. Though, is
It's
it?
getting over the line. It's
No, it's
finding a
not.
way.
No, it isn't. That's nonsense. Because then it just becomes outcome-based analysis, and
Yeah,
that's the worst sort
absolutely.
of analysis when it comes to football. Is essentially when you take and
I
too
think, I
much
think,
of this
I think
goes
bottle
on.
jobs is
Yeah, but
it
then
is
that's
a
why
lot
it
about the
doesn't.
outcome.
But then that's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. That's why I just don't like that sort of analysis because
Yeah.
it ignores everything that's gone into certain games and it goes, okay, well that was the result, so this must have happened. Well, no, like it's more
I
nuanced
think
than
he's
that.
bottled it against Newcastle. And
Okay, but
Jack's
then Spurs
interview.
bottled it against Brighton and Brentford when they didn't have shots on
Yeah,
target. For fuck's sake,
honestly.
like how
On
many
top of
games
that,
could you go back through and say bottled it? Like
exactly, you
over.
lost.
If you want to do
Yeah,
that, yeah,
you
you
lost
could.
13
That's why the
games.
season
They
is
lost
38
13.
games.
Yeah. Arsenal lost 13 games. Hitler didn't lose the war because he lost Stalingrad. Like you
The
can't just
fuck
put
is
it
this
down to
turn
one
into?
moment. It's a whole collective. It's a string. They lost 13 games and some really badly, worse than probably the Newcastle game.
Yeah.
You can't string it to one bottle. If it's a cup game, that's different because it's not. It's not
all about
stringing
Games
that
are
us on.
one-offs. It's
It's a one-off.
I think when you get that down to it, like I don't know, I wouldn't have even said it was a bottle so much, but Xhaka's interview was like literally pointing, like he said everything but the word bottle, to describe.
I think he was just
the
frustrated
form.
though. I think Fergal, what we do is, and we do this with managers and we do this with players, and this will be my last point because I know we've gone on about this a bit.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you. We need to
When
move on.
managers and players speak after games and emotions are running high, we put far too much stock into what they say. He was very emotional after that game. You can't take absolutely everything they say at face value and deduce that it was accurate or in any way reflective of what actually went on. I think he was very annoyed. He was pissed off. I actually think he might leave this summer. There was kind of a bit of frustration about it. I think he was so desperate to get into the Champions League, and the fact that we didn't do it, he was speaking emotionally. It was from the heart. But it doesn't make what he was saying
Harry,
right.
you can't say that though.
What? How?
You're saying what Xhaka has said on the record is less accurate than your opinion on what Xhaka really thinks.
No, what I'm saying is, if he said it, it doesn't make it true. It doesn't mean that we bottled it. It means, in my opinion, I don't think we were good enough.
I think it's a lot more accurate. I think it's a lot more credible than
me.
anybody else on the outside. Are you guessing from the outside? Yeah.
I'm not guessing. I'm telling you what I watched. But anyway,
Yeah,
look,
but it's all. You're not in the dressing room.
I've had enough. We're not going to
Xhaka
compromise,
is.
are
I'm
we?
going to listen to Xhaka about what's in the dressing room.
I mean, if he thinks he bottled it, then
for that game.
If he thinks he bottled it, then that's
Ali,
fine.
Twitter poll after this.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah,
Let's
this needs
move
a Twitter
on. Let's
poll,
move
actually.
on.
You're right.
You know, we've gone round in bloody circles here.
For
I think we've
20
both got our points
bloody
across.
minutes. Move on.
Yeah, well, you wanted to do it. You wanted my rant. Let's move on. Let's come back. And George has already mentioned it. Let's go back to the start of the season. I want to talk about our predictions and revisit them. See who's done well. See who hasn't done well. And we'll start at the bottom because we didn't mention as much of the relegation stuff on the final day. Leeds get themselves out of trouble and condemning Burnley to the Championship. Now, looking at our predictions, none of us had them in the relegation zone. So, I mean, is it fair to call that one a surprise, lads? Or is it one of those things that evolves over the season and you could sort of see it coming, I suppose?
With Leeds, was it?
With Burnley going down.
Burnley going down, I think it's one of those ones where, in hindsight, you look back at the start of the season and they're always in that. They're always should be relegated, but they've just their whole what's the phrase persona non grata, what, you know, like the whole thing about them is that they stay up, and even when they should really go down,
they find a way.
And they just didn't find a way. And well, the way they were trying to find was Sack and Dyche, which I've heard now from a few Burnley fans was the right thing to do.
Well, it does sound like it. George is shaking his head, but like from what it sounds like to me, it sounds like it was broken. It sounds like the working relationship between him and the players had become untenable, and they did get a little bit of a bounce. Let's be honest, they won 3 of the next 4 games, and I think people thought that might be enough. and ultimately they fell short on the final day.
I would say it's the right decision if they had contingency plans. They didn't bring in a top manager, or at least a manager experienced enough to get them out of that situation, while sacking a manager who's a serial winner in that sense. You know, that he is the man for that job. I think it's criminal they sacked him. Genuinely, I said it at the time.
The Burnley fan.
But no, but I don't care. I think you've got to give that person in that situation the chance to rebuild those relationships. And if there's one man that I'm convinced can do that, even from an outside perspective, it's Sean Dyche. I just think I know I've been banging on about Leeds and I'm wanting them to get relegated. I'm not too disappointed by Burnley getting relegated after that situation. I really rate Dyche. I don't have any strong feelings towards Burnley other than Sean Dyche is a fantastic manager with the resources he had.
You know what it is, though? And I think it's become more clear, certainly with the statement by the club that came out the other week about how if they go down, there's going to be sort of like £65 million worth of debt that's going to be recalled by the owners. I think there was a panic up there. I think they looked at it and thought, we can't get relegated. And even though giving this guy more time is probably the right thing to do, and he has earned it with the body of his work, I just think it was a Hail Mary. I think they would have tried anything. I don't think there was a contingency plan. I don't think they were looking to fire him when they did, but I think they looked at it and thought, the dressing room morale's not good. We're not getting results. We've got to just do anything to try and stay up. And
well, that's it. It's almost easier to make a decision at that point, because to sit there and almost watch it wwithout taking action, you would therefore be kind of more responsible by not doing anything. It's still the wrong decision. I think it's a bit of a disgrace, but I'm somewhat sympathetic to why they thought they had to knee jerk and do it.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Just on the relegation battle, I suppose it's worth revisiting our predictions with. I think Everton and Leeds are worth a mention here. George was the only person, when you look at those two teams, to have either of them anywhere near the relegation battle. He had Leeds 15th. None of us had Everton down there. In fact, Ali predicted them above Arsenal, which I won't let him forget anytime soon.
Yeah, this was shocking. And I did it. I put Everton 9th.
Yeah. You had Spurs 12th, didn't you?
Yeah.
I had Everton 9th out of the fact that Everton are rubbish and vanilla and just don't do what they're expected to do.
Yeah.
My God, they've exceeded our expectations. No.
Not in a good way.
In a good way for me.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I hope they'd go down. This is the way the Everton season went is a compliment to good, sensible process and good management, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The way this club is run, they will continue to suffer the consequences. I wouldn't be surprised if next year they do go down. Considering they will be like, I'd be very surprised if Richarlison doesn't go. And Calvert-Lewin, obviously. I'd be surprised if they made any upgrades to their team.
Well, they can't. I mean, financially. So,
exactly.
So
that's why
if
I
they
say
stay up, the implications of them staying up. I mean, Leeds and Burnley are going to appeal, but I don't think Everton are going to get relegated.
No,
what will happen? They are going to be under such scrutiny with their spending come the next transfer window. I don't know how they're going to spend anything without moving some players on. So you mentioned Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, some of these guys. Even then, they're going to be working with such a shoestring budget. And when I look at that squad, I mean, Jesus Christ, they are going to be up against it next season. And when you look at Lampard, and people might like him, people might not like him. I don't think he's got a track record where you can look at him and think they'll stay up because of him. You know, he might foster an environment where, you know, they've made Goodison a bit of a hard place to go and they've got the crowd on side. But if you're evaluating him tactically and looking at what he's produced so far in his managerial career,
defensively, most importantly as well, like
struggles to coach defense. I mean,
yeah, and that's the one thing you need to give yourself a chance in a relegation battle is to be relying on sort of 1-0 wins throughout the season. if you can't keep a clean sheet, you're going to struggle with that.
I do think we're being a little bit harsh on this Everton team. Like, I'm not saying they're not going to struggle next year. It's going to be a horrible year, and I don't envy Frank Lampard at all. In fact, I don't think he'll do a particularly good job. However, I don't think they're certain to go down, even with selling players. It'll require quite a smart transfer window, something that this Everton board and management haven't seemed to be able to do in the past few years. But they have made some decent signings with Dele Alli that there's shining of brilliance. And no, I genuinely think he can be a
You've
real.
got to be joking.
asset.
They don't want to sign him, do they?
He had in the comeback. He was the difference maker.
Yeah, he is. He's if
they terrible
if they
on
foster
Sunday.
an
To be
environment.
fair, they'd been out on the piss.
If they foster an environment,
true,
where he can play his best football, I think they'll be okay. And that's why no one had them down there anyway. They've got a bad squad. I don't think they've got a worse squad than Leeds or.
Really?
Actually, I mean, I look above them.
I
do
get the
some
feeling it's
quality
a bit like
teams with Southampton, Aston Villa, Brentford, Crystal Palace. I think they are going to struggle. I just don't think.
I think they're going to be down there again. I've got to be honest.
it's a bit like when West Ham when everything was toxic. Like there's foreign players in there that never thought once in their career, oh, I'd love to go to Everton. Now they're at Everton and it's all going bad, and they don't really care so much. And that reminds me of like a sort of a Felipe Anderson at West Ham. I think there's a few of them that type of player in the mix at Everton, along with people that do care and do want to do well. And so it's hard to cut those bad players out and then bring in young exciting players when you got this budget that they're going to be working with. It's too early to be making predictions. We're already
and the point wasn't to react to our predictions by predicting next year. But I think it's just worth noting that Everton have massively underperformed. I don't think anyone has.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I'm not ashamed of my prediction. I think I had them 10th.
I don't think anyone expects them to be bad as they have.
I thought they'd be really solid defensively, and they've been anything but that. I thought they mightn't be great going forward, but I thought Rafa would have them really well drilled. And the stock and all the defenders has dropped off significantly. Like players like Godfrey were, being talked up for England, and a lot, and then Dinier's moved on. That defense has dropped off significantly. Seamus Coleman, as much as I love him, as much as Frank Lampard loves him, that best man he's ever met. It's just a massive drop off from him as well, and they need to give that young lad Patterson a run of games to help Coleman out a bit, like.
Yeah, he's reached the end as Coleman. Although Frank Lampard was giving him a lot of praise actually the other day.
Not football and praise though. It was your
personal praise.
Yeah, good character. I just want to mention a couple of the lads in mid-table because I think Newcastle are an interesting one because obviously nobody,
Newcastle aren't an interesting one. Newcastle were predicted to go down. They're one of the worst squads in the league, and then they throw 100 million at it, get a new manager, and survive because they're owned by a government. Fair. They're not interesting. No, it's fair. No, and I don't care that you live right next to the stadium. It's the truth.
To finish 12th after the points they were on, no team has ever survived relegation.
No team's ever spent that money in January.
Yeah, exactly. No team's ever spent anywhere near 100 million in January. And listen, there just to be a bit more serious. Moving Joelinton to box is nothing anyone could have seen coming, and he's one of the best at the some of the moves that Eddie Howe made. To be fair, the way he's utilized Bruno Guimaraes as someone who's I thought he'd be kind of sitting deep, dictating tempo kind of guy. He had him going forward. He had him making late runs into the box, and they've got important wins out of that. Just some of the ways he's utilized players is great. That said, though, it's still not interesting.
He didn't throw in the £1 million signing straight away. John Joe Shelby had a huge run of games before Bruno even started.
Yeah.
In fact, he came off the bench in 86th minute for 3 consecutive games. On top of that, I mean, if we another universe, let's say parallel universe, where they throw millions at it, it could go very wrong. I mean, if you
Did they
look at
lose
the
to
actual
Arsenal in this
signing,
one?
the profiles that they got, Trippier was an inspired signing. Target was a fantastic signing. Wood,
No.
you know, less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
But they were smart. They weren't ridiculous. They didn't try and get Mbappe. Obviously, that's a bit too far.
Well, obviously they didn't
Or
because
Coutinho or something like that.
No, but
as
that's
well, like.
obviously
yeah.
that's exaggeration. But it was very smart, and Eddie Howe deserves a lot of credit.
Oh, it's the
for
most annoying
12.
thing about this Newcastle regime is that we're not going to get
True.
any fun Robinhos or
No,
anything like that.
no, it'd be very smart.
Gonna
It's gonna be all
be
sensible.
like they're trying to sign the director of football from Brighton, aren't they?
Yeah.
Or I don't know if they're still doing that, but that was heavily
That's rough.
rumored. And like, so it's just gonna be fucking boring. That they're just gonna be like nice and sensible and slowly
Yeah.
progress up the table. You know, great. We'll have another title challenger in 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
It's pretty well run. The team I'd like to point out, which I got incredibly wrong.
Yeah,
but I
I'm
did
looking at it.
caveat it at the time. It's Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did caveat it when we done it. I didn't know what way it was gonna go. My head was saying.
It was really
my
hard
head-
though to call.
Yeah, my head was saying like too much turnover, young side, iffy manager.
Yeah, it's an iffy track record, and I love Vieira, but
and he's got no managerial experience in the Premier League.
no.
Add that all together, my head saying absolute disaster, going to go down. My heart, I was going to say my heart, but it's more another part of my brain. My left side, left hemisphere, was saying, you've got a lot of players I like there: Conor Gallagher, Gerhi, Anderson, as a it's a really nice
Yeah.
team, and Zaha's there, and then you've got a Premier League legend in there as well. So. But I went with the more sensible, more conservative side and put them down. But I'm not. I wasn't too surprised that it did end up clicking for them. It was one of those things where, if it clicked quickly for them, which it ended up doing, it was going to be a good season. But if they had a slow start, it might have been able to catch up.
Yeah, I think there was. I think justifiably there was. I mean, I put them 17th, and I thought. It's difficult because they've signed young players. They've turned a large part of the squad over. Albeit a lot of them were, had seen their best days, including Roy Hodgson. But you just don't know how it's going to go. And Vieira, iffy track record. So although I liked it on paper, there was always that uncertainty. But they've done really well, and. I think the most exciting thing if you're a Palace fan is you look at it and think that you can get better. Like, obviously, Gallagher's probably going to go back to Chelsea. I don't think they'll be getting him again. But, all the other players that are there have their best years ahead of them, a lot of them. So, it's probably the most exciting time for a Palace fan, probably since they've been in the league, I would say, because they've kind of just been very, turgid, solid, steady.
4-4-2.
Yeah, and you know
Roy
what you're going to
Hodgson.
get. In terms of playing style and in terms of kind of across the season, you'll be reliable in mid-table, and maybe there's nothing wrong with that. But now I do think there's scope for them to, they're probably not going to challenge like the top 8, but they could get into the top half. I think like 9th, 10th. They could easily do what Brighton have done this season, which is another one of my poor predictions. I had them relegated. So
Villa as well. I think we all George
over-index them.
Yeah, in fairness, yourself and Harry have put them right. Me and Ali have put them 6th and 7th.
A lot of people thought they would get Europe because of the signings
I never
they
saw
made.
it. I never saw it. I have to
Fair
be
play.
honest.
I think it's a massive underperformance, though. I still look at that. I look at that squad, and you've even have players that we wouldn't have really thought about at the start of the season, like Jacob Ramsey having such a good season.
Yeah, Coutinho coming in.
Yeah, Coutinho coming
January.
in. The centre backs are the one issue where they'll need to go into, but I think they're looking at a really, really solid first 11. And if they have another season like that, Jared won't be in the job too long.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? Like since he's come in, it's so tight in mid-table. Like they were 8th or 9th a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 9th, but and then they've ended up finishing 14th. I mean, that's how tight it is, kind of in the middle of the table. They're going to have to do better next season. I think that the idea certainly behind the spending that's gone on there and the squad they've tried to build is they want to be challenged. They want to be doing what West Ham are doing, where you're sort of in that 7th, 8th position and seriously challenging the top 6. And they're not there yet. They're not. They maybe they should be, but they certainly aren't. And I suppose that was one we all got wrong. Looking at some of the other ones, I mean, got to give a mention to Brighton. Obviously, I predicted them 18th. You guys were a bit more conservative with yours, getting them in mid-table. He's done a good job there, Potter. I mean, I do think he's a little bit overrated, but he has done a good job. They've got a good team. I mean, they do some good recruitment, in fairness to them. You can see why Newcastle want their sporting director.
Disagree with the fact that Potter is overrated. He did take them to their best ever season.
For 3 months.
Well, it is their best ever season still, so you can't knock it.
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying I think he's overrated.
Nah. I mean, the shouts of, get him for the England job, get him for the Man United job, get him for like a top 6 role. I don't think he's there yet.
I think he would suit the England job. He is very Gareth Southgate aura, really. I think he's a better tactician as well.
I think he's the best English manager, but I don't think there's particularly great competition, I must be honest. It's probably more Eddie Howe. I mean,
exactly. That's probably a better way to look at it.
But they've done well. You've got to give them credit. They've done well. I thought they'd really struggle because they just don't score goals. But the rest of the team's been... I mean, Cucurella's been fantastic. He's been a revelation. They're good in midfield. And they've got a good system there. And they've sold Dan Burn to Newcastle and, kind of just carried on and still churned out results. So, I mean, they deserve credit for that.
They still underperformed their expected goals by 7.5 goals.
Even I saw that.
They need a striker, man. If they get a striker, they finish higher.
Brentford as well.
They should be looking, seriously. Yeah, Brentford's the other one. I got them bang on. I mean, it was just pure luck. It was guesswork, really. I don't think anyone, again, knew what to expect from Brentford.
Got them 1 off.
Oh, did they end up 13th? I thought I'd done 12th, didn't I?
No.
Yeah, and they end up 13th.
Yeah, just 1 off. It's fine. Brentford, according to Understats, expected points model, they are 7th on expected points.
6th or 7th.
7th. Yeah. Underperforming their expected points by exactly 10.
Yeah, they were really high on there, I remember.
Yeah, and the fascinating thing is that they haven't exactly played good football until Eriksen came in and there was actually someone to create chances and like control games. Everything was a set piece, wasn't it? And that's a really good way to go at, because they have a lot of physical advantages in up front and at the back, so you can utilize. They had this long throw thing going on. Obviously, Ivan Toney was an important part to that too, in terms of his ability to just control things coming out of the sky, win aerials and things. So really good process.
You're right to mention, though, they were really, really poor between kind of mid-December and basically when Eriksen came into the team. Like, that was the part, because they were getting dragged into the relegation, but like there was kind of an outside chance. People were looking at it and thinking, could Brentford go down? And in the end, they've finished well clear, and they've had a very good season in the end. And it's going to be interesting, like you've seen with teams like previously where they've had a good first season, but then teams work them out a bit. I mean, obviously the two that stand out to me are Leeds. I mean, maybe that's partly injury informed, and maybe physically they couldn't, keep doing what Bielsa. But also Sheffield United. Sheffield United were 8th, I think, in their or 9th, was it, in the first season?
Yeah,
and then 9th. They were rock bottom. And I'm not saying it's going to happen to Brentford, but they got figured out with their play style.
Yeah,
so
I don't think it will happen with Brentford, because
it'd be interesting to see how they evolve it. Are they going to get Eriksen? I mean, they're going to have competition for him if they do want to. So, but no, I mean, they were hard to predict. I can understand why you would get that wrong. And speaking of getting things wrong, I mean, we've got to talk about Leicester. I said at the start of the season, because I predicted them 5th, but I said from an Arsenal perspective, really, we should be finishing above them. Like, there's no excuse not for finishing above them. They keep, defying the odds and working, within a budget and doing well. But when you're talking about expectation, they've always kind of overperformed. And I think you've seen this season that they've had a couple of injuries. I mean, should Brendan Rodgers be under pressure for this season, or is that expected for them to finish 8th? I mean, it's an interesting debate, I think.
I think they had awful bad injuries. That Fofana was such a big miss, and with the budget they're on, that it's hard to bring in good squad players. I think it's one of those ones. If it continued on past this season, I think alarm bells would start to ring. But I think the fact that it's a bit like Liverpool last season, I think that you take a deep breath and go, we'll just go again, and it's not the end of the world. It's an understandable season, a disappointing one, but they'll make good signs again. It's bound to happen. It's so hard to be so perfect, and then you need the luck to go along with that as well when you're Leicester. The injuries were really, really bad this season. I was surprised that I hadn't been paying attention to James Maddison, and
he's in a good season.
14 goals,
ended up having a really good season. Yeah, top goal scorer for them. And ended up having a really good season, and he's completely flown under my radar.
The only thing I would say with Leicester, and you're right to mention the defensive injuries, the defending has been awful. I mean, I saw expected points a few weeks ago. They were 18th in the table. I mean, they really have been bad. It's been a bad season.
Except the European run, which is respectable. Semi-final conference.
Respectable. But they were in the Europa League and dropped into the Conference League. Which
that is true.
Wasn't, the goal at the start of the season. So I think
how
Rodgers,
far West Ham went as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, West Ham got to the semi-finals and Leicester, went out in the group. So I think they're going to have to start next season well. I mean, I don't know what's realistic to expect for Leicester. I mean, maybe it is, 7th, 8th, especially with Newcastle. What are they going to spend in the summer? Like, they're going to face a lot of competition.
Definitely.
It's tough because I think that the theme of this sort of podcast is sort of like great expectations. Leicester are a mid-table club. I mean, yes, they've overperformed the last few seasons, and Brendan Rodgers has done a fantastic job.
That's what it has been, an overperformance.
And unfortunately, with overperformances becomes these greater expectations when really we probably shouldn't place them on them, especially with teams like Tottenham and Man United and Arsenal around them. They really, I mean, it's really harsh.
I think they should be aiming for best.
Best of the rest, but they were. I mean, they were just below West Ham.
West Ham, yeah.
It's not.
No one would have batted an eyelid a couple of seasons ago had they finished 8th. You'd have gone, it's a solid season for Leicester.
Good season.
It's a classic point. You're right to mention. You finish higher, and then greater expectations come.
It's almost
the only reason they ever get a chance is just because of how badly everyone else has run. Like if the top 6 performed to their full potential, Leicester wouldn't have a chance.
No, they wouldn't. I mean, you look at it last season, they finished 5th with like mid-60s points, which kind of tells you that it's in part at least due to other teams underperforming rather than them being exceptional. But I mean, it's going to be interesting for them next season. Just kind of moving towards the end of these, I think what we have to mention quickly is the biggest gap between a prediction and where a team actually finished. Fergal with Spurs in 12th, and they finished in 4th. Anything you want to add on that one, mate?
Yeah, it's not the biggest. The biggest was Ali with a difference of 12 with Leeds, but I take your point. It was a bad prediction. No, again, is another one I caveated. I'm pretty sure at the time I said you could swap. You could probably swap United and Spurs round. I wasn't too sure on either of them. The other thing I'd say is I still stand by that's a really good prediction because they were absolutely awful on
They
track.
were headed.
Yeah, Nuno.
I've said this before. Under Nuno, they were primed to finish
relegation,
bottom half. Yeah.
The only thing I should have thought ahead was, well, if they're doing that badly, they're going to
probably sack him.
Yeah. So, but who would have predicted that they would get in Conte and have such a January window? I actually think I actually quite like that prediction. I think I got it. The start of the season.
Good take on that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
what a way to twist it.
You'd said to me after that game on October the 30th or 31st when they lost 3-0 to Man United. Oh, by the way, they're going to finish 4th. I would have fucking laughed in your face and told you you're on something because They were so bad. They were so bad in the first 10 games. Maybe we did bottle it. God, how did we let them finish fourth? Yeah.
He's convinced.
And then Man United, we touched on
yeah.
it already. Man United as well. Like, I had them finish above Liverpool in.
We
third.
all had them in the top 4. And
Yes.
this is where, you know, I think you've got to look at a team and just say, fucking hell, they were bad.
And
I mean,
that
they
was
are...
before the Cristiano Ronaldo signing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah. They are, without doubt, the worst team to get into the top 6 ever. 0 goal difference, 58 points. Name me a worse team that's finished in the Europa League.
And on top of that, you know, we've talked about sort of expectations and it being a little bit unfair. Man United should have finished in the top 4. Their spend, not saying their squad
second last year, 70-odd points.
Yeah, I'm saying
signed the players they did in the summer.
The profile of Man United, the profile of players, well, you know, the expectations, or at least the perception of these players that they brought in, it's an absolute horrific. It's probably the worst season out of any club. I mean, you can
it's in the conversation. I was having this with someone. I was having this with someone the other day. Pound for pound, worst season in Premier League history. The one he threw back at me was Chelsea 2015-16. But the thing is, you'd won the league the year before. I can sort of, I don't know. Like, I think the working relationship between the players and Mourinho there, I can compartmentalise that one a bit more. Whereas Man United have just been so awful for you know, a couple of different managers. And I'm not saying I thought they were anything great, but I thought they were better than this. And it's just been.
We also had a really good end to the season that time because we stopped Spurs from winning the league again, and that was the last one. So United lost to Crystal Palace like in the last
United
game.
got battered by Liverpool 4-0. If you're looking at kind of the equivalent thing of, you know, trying to stop your rivals winning the league or going for the league or whatever, they didn't do their bit. You did, so maybe we are crowning that one as the worst season in Premier League history.
I'm actually looking through the previous seasons and who got 6th. Nobody since I'm through to 2013-14 right now. Nobody's gotten 0.
This is an interesting
goal difference
stat. Last season, Everton finished 10th with 59 points. Man United finished 6th with 58 points this year. I mean, it is just madness. It is madness how they've been able to do that.
Truly.
Before we wrap this segment up, it's just quickly worth going over the scores on the doors. Do you want to take this one, Fergal, as the chief statistician, or do you want me to do it? Seeing as I've already
of the
table.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll work from the bottom up. Ali, you had a total difference of 74, an average of 3.7 places off for each team. I was next up with 64, a difference of 64, an average of 3.2 places off for each team. George just ahead of me, 62 was the difference, 31 or 3.1 was the difference for each team. And Harry, you've only gone and done it.
One person,
Yay!
58 was the difference, 2.9 difference for each team. But I have to say I'm quite content with my predictions.
That Spurs one, mate.
Spurs one, I got
it
it spot on in some ways. You know,
you would have won this if Spurs kept Nuno.
Projection-wise, until October, he was kind of right.
Even if they just had got in like a Spurs level manager, but they somehow managed to get in Conte.
Yeah, madness, absolutely madness. But I'm happy to take my crown, champion of the table predictions. However, what I'm certainly not champion of, and this is what we're going to have to move on to now, unfortunately, is the just another fantasy predictions, just another fantasy table for the season. What have you got for me, Fergal? Have you got it there?
Yeah, we took this competition very seriously.
As we teased it, you know, it was neck and neck between me and George. You know, George is Liverpool or Man City. I'm Liverpool, and we forgot about it. As it was.
Talk about bottle job, eh?
That was
the biggest bottle job. We completely forgot. Next into the group chat, I think it was about half time of all the games. It wasn't even just before the start of them.
Oh, by the way,
lads, we've forgotten about it. So it stays as it was. The final scores on a pathetic end.
Quite apt, actually,
was George, who has now forgotten 5 or at least 5 game weeks. I think it was maybe 7 game weeks in total. George has forgotten, and somehow managed to still win.
It's that one double game week for Mo Salah.
Oh, I'm not having that.
One triple game week. That's what it was.
Facts, by the way.
And yeah, George got 168. I got 165. If I had just fucking said anybody, I probably would have won it. And Ali on 146 and Harry 117. Way.
Interesting fact on this.
I need to talk about that.
My 84 for Salah is exactly half of what I got points total.
Yeah.
The one game week was 50% of my points.
Which is making me rethink the triple captain. I'm thinking
maybe
maybe
double.
next season it should only be double. But yeah, no, look, that was your clutch moment. You couldn't have picked it at a better time. Credit
Yeah,
to you.
he stay patient. Stay patient with Salah.
Yeah, I wish I had done the stats and maybe done like points per pick or something like that.
We don't need to. Yeah.
It would have been interesting maybe to see that. But yeah, who really cares?
I want to relive it.
Yeah, that's the end of the season. Do you think we'll do it again next season?
I think we'll do it again.
Yeah, I think so. It was good crack.
I think we'll do it again when we remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to all set alarms on our phones or something like that to remind us, because when it came to the end of the season, we were really struggling to remember it.
Yeah.
At each week, even me especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, next season. Congratulations, George. You won it on a technicality.
On a technicality.
I can only get better. I can only get better on that one.
There's only one way you can move.
Only one way I can go and I could stagnate, I suppose. Yeah. Only one way I can go in that setup. Onwards and upwards the next season. It's been a busy week as well, other than the Premier League action, as the guys spoke about last week. Some big games going on, including the Europa League final, the Bundesliga playoff, and the conclusion to Serie A. So do you want to just bring the viewers up to date on what's gone on, Ali?
All right. So the Europa League final viewers, yes, they watch the Spotify icon. No,
They might be watching on YouTube. Hold on.
They are watching a still photo that has the title of the episode and our banner. Yes.
Why do we put them on YouTube then?
For people that don't have Spotify, that's the idea.
Right. So people do what?
Yeah, there you go.
They
are viewers. It does count as views on YouTube. Yeah. Anyway, hit the like button.
Correct.
Yes, Europa League final. Eintracht Frankfurt came out on top, 5-4 in the penalty shootout after a 1-1 draw, which was a pretty boring game. Fergal and I previewing this last week. We were saying it's gonna be exciting because both teams are really adventurous and high, energy and tempo and all this, and it just turned out to. It wasn't a terrible game. It was a very cautious game from both sides. Nobody wanted to make errors, and everyone was overthinking things. And both goals came from errors, ironically enough. Especially the Joe Reba goal for Rangers. That was a terrible error.
Highlight for me was the crying Rangers kids.
Yeah.
There were so many of them. I couldn't get over just how and also like some of the adults crying were like they had a certain look about them that just made it very enjoyable.
I saw a really funny sort of preview by a Scottish sort of TV, and they asked sort of a young Celtic fan, what's his prediction, and he goes,
you need to mention the other bit, George. It was a whole family split down the middle between Rangers and Celtic, and the dad was Celtic fan, but was very 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 nice, going
respectful.
No, but we're gonna support Rangers in this one, and we're all very nice in this house. And then the kid said, George,
1,000 to Frankfurt. Obviously, he was blunt, he was brutal. He wanted.
Good.
I like
That's what football's all about.
Exactly. What's all this support your rivals thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
What a
fantastic.
bollocks.
This
really
kid
was.
knows. This kid knows.
I genuinely.
Mm.
On the game, though, it's one of the worst. It was terrible. I'm sorry, I'm not having this. That it was a shocking game of football.
Penalties.
Like,
Good penalties.
yeah,
The penalties
the Frankfurt penalties were fucking hell.
Bloody
They were
hell.
typical German penalties, weren't they? From like,
Yeah.
when Germany just didn't miss a single bloody penalty for about 30 years at the World Cup. Yeah, in true
Both
German
fans
fashion.
were brilliant as well. It has to be said. Like
They were. They were great.
Both
was a good
brought
atmosphere.
was fantastic.
It was as
they
good
were
as
brilliant
as
to
we thought
stay
it would be.
for the whole game. It was awful. Terrible game of football.
Yeah, it was. The other European final that happened is the Women's Champions League final. That was really exciting because it was Barcelona, who had a perfect La Liga league season. They won literally every single game in the league against Lyon, who had lost out on the Champions League after winning it 5 times in a row. Lyon frankly humbled Barcelona. Alexis Putellas, who won the top goal scorer. I think she's the current holder of. I don't follow individual awards that much anymore, but I think
The
she's
women's
the
like Ballon d'Or.
yeah women's Ballon d'Or. I think she's
Whatever
Alexis
it's
Putellas
called,
is the holder. Ada Hagerberg, who was a previous winner. She's one of the Lyon contingent who won the Champions League those 5 times in a row, and she was in the squad again. Featured, starred, and won 3-1. So Lyon
Love
yet
seeing
again.
Barca lose in any European competition.
You do? Why is that?
Can't stand them. Because they've robbed us of a couple of Champions Leagues. So
Yeah, that's true.
and Chelsea, to be fair. So fuck Barca and UEFA, and love seeing them lose. Whether it's the men, the women, the under-18s, the under-7s, who cares? Fuck them.
Respect
You can tell
the
it's the
women's
end of the
side.
season.
Respect the women's side, attracting 95,000 fans is all I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That was impressive in fairness. I just felt the cameo out.
And then onto the Serie A, and my boys AC Milan did it. They won at Sassuolo. It was billed as like a tricky game away to Sassuolo, who have a really good squad. But it could have been 9-0 in the first half. The highlights were frankly ridiculous. Like there's like 10 highlights in 16 minutes of like sitters. Like Milan should have taken the lead had it settled by the 10th minute or whatever. But they won 3-0. It was easy enough. Easy enough.
Giroud got on the score sheet, I saw.
3 assists for arguably the player of the season, Rafael Leao. What a player.
Fikayo Tomori, most minutes on the pitch for an outfield player for AC Milan all season.
Yes. Finally in the England squad.
Yeah, I was
Finally.
going to say, don't start. You'll set Ali off.
Finally in the English squad.
Tomori. He loves him more than you guys do, I'm telling you.
No, I just
that.
dislike injustice, and I think he should have been in the England squad since September. And also the fact the way he was sold from Chelsea was criminal. I don't know why you sold him. Why Tuchel didn't use him.
Take that up with Fat Frank.
So, yeah,
Frank.
it is.
Frank was a shocker with that one.
But they've got Mangling Sauce. It's all right.
Malik Sarr. Any response to that, Virgo?
Totally agree. It's everything's going to be okay with Manning.
Everything.
I love how much he hates him.
It would be an Everton signing. Imagine they signed Malang Sarr for 30 million. In the Bundesliga, and obviously Bayern had it wrapped up weeks ago, but there was a relegation playoff. So as we know from last week, third best in Bundesliga 2, the second division, play third worst in the Bundesliga, who were Hertha Berlin. Hertha Berlin lost the first leg in Berlin, 1-0. And we all thought, we're going to have Bundesliga 2 games in the Olympic Stadium. And then what did Hamburg do? Lose 2-0 at home.
Okers.
And Hertha Berlin, it was a pathetic performance. It was absolutely shocking, that second leg. Completely shocking. Like, there is no worse way to negotiate a 1-0 advantage. You never got going. You never managed to string a couple passes together. Just make the pitch a bit open. Spread it out, cross balls in. Anything.
Make it sound easy, Alex.
It's not that. It's just that it's obviously really hard to manage the nerves when a team of size of Hamburg have been out of the Bundesliga for 4 years. This is going to be their 5th season next season in Bundesliga 2, which is unheard of for them. And I can understand the nerves, but you cannot lose in that fashion. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Hertha should have had the game wrapped up long ago. And it never looked in doubt. There were no away goals, but it never, ever looked in doubt when Hertha Berlin got 2-0 up. That was it. But that was the Bundesliga relegation battle. And these were the games that we kind of previewed last week.
Quick preview for tomorrow. Is Jose going to do it? Is he going to do it? Is Tabs on Tammy going to do it?
The last Tabs on Tammy.
Yeah. Tammy's last game for Roma before he comes back to the Premier League and scores 25 for Arsenal next season.
You wish.
He's going to sign off. Well, we're in for him, mate. He's a target.
Oh, actually.
Yeah.
I saw you were in for Osimhen. I thought that's.
We're in for just about everyone at the moment, mate. Any striker. Everyone knows we need a striker. So
Donny Calvert-Lewin.
Anyone. Yeah, he'll be linked, I'm sure. But no, I think they'll do it. I think Roma. I think Jose. He'll get them over the line. I think against Feyenoord. They've got to be heavy favourites for that. You'd have thought.
They
Serial winner. He's just it's a no-brainer. It's already done.
Tommy Brace in the final, I think.
Yeah.
A couple interesting stats about this. Feyenoord have not lost a game in the Conference League all season.
Really?
No,
Christ.
they
Conference
are
League,
unbeaten. But Roma have kept a clean sheet at least in one of the ties in every knockout phase. So don't expect the best game in the world. Roma will absolutely stink out the place. Feyenoord won't fight a way through, and it will finish 1-0 Roma, I think.
Roma have shored themselves up since the humbling by Bodo Glimt. I think they beat them on multiple occasions, didn't they? In the knockout stages as well.
Yeah, they beat them. Bodo Glimt beat them twice, but then there was the 6-1, the really famous 6-1, and then there was another one. But Roma ended up beating them 4-0 anyways and going through in whatever knockout round, I don't remember.
Jose's going to do it. He's going to do it.
He is, yeah. I have no doubts about that.
He knows what he's doing out there. And then Tammy Abraham will be wearing the glorious red and white next season. What a player. What was Tuchel thinking? What a fraud.
Honestly, yeah.
Feyenoord, of course, was the first Dutch team to win the European Cup. Well, they have a bit of pedigree there.
Got a bit of European pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
What is the Conference League? What is it like?
Oh no.
Oh.
Harry went.
That's what happens when you say the Conference League too many times. You just get struck down.
Oh, I got thrown out there. What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. He's disconnected.
It's because you were slagging off the Conference League. You're not allowed to do that.
No, I was saying the Conference League. Like, what does it equate to in terms of like? Is it the Cup Winners' Cup or the what? Is
it doesn't equate to anything. It's just a new competition.
It doesn't equate.
It's just
that.
third tier. Did we ever have a third tier? Intertoto.
Intertoto is probably more accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just trying to ask a genuine question, and Discord just threw me out. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
Anyway, should we wrap it up?
We shall wrap it up. What a bumper episode.
We'll leave it there for tonight. Long bumper episode covering multiple bases. We've gone across our predictions, gone across all the games in Europe, and previewed tomorrow's big game in the Conference League. We'll have a podcast later this week previewing the Champions League final, where of course Ali has a vested interest in that. The Mo Salah derby. And we'll get his thoughts on what's to come in that game. But for now, thanks for joining me, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you to the listeners or viewers or whatever you want to bloody call them.
Hit the like button.
Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button. And we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.